welcome to this live broadcast room. I am Echo and I am very glad to invite Jess Michel to North American Community Responsibility of Bitcoin Classic. Recently, the Bitcoin Classic project is very popular. Bitcoin Classic, which is produced by Bitcoin hard fork and very similar to Bitcoin in technology and structure. Today, let's talk about Bitcoin Classic. Jess Michel, how do you view Bitcoin Classic community?
Bitcoin Classic community is a global community which is mainly divided into Chinese and English supporters. Its fans are distributed in America, Canada, Singapore, China and other countries. The members of Bitcoin Classic community are mostly miners, technical developers and cryptocurrency lovers. Despite their different identities, the community members' goals are always the same, so we can all participate in the ecological construction of Bitcoin Classic. I was very surprised by the community activity of Bitcoin Classic. Both the WeChat groups of the Chinese community and the Telegram of the English community were very active in their pleasure about Bitcoin Classic. Every day there were fans offering suggestions for how Bitcoin Classic can improve going forward in the future.
How to make more people realize Bitcoin Classic?
So this involves the issue of Bitcoin Classic brand building, which is an area I will focus on in my future work. Currently, fans come from the Bitcoin community, while the rest are mostly users of the cryptocurrency market. In my opinion, the current user coverage is too narrow, and the community coverage of Bitcoin Classic should be appropriately expanded. For example, to attract some merchants, cross-border e-commerce should be used to attract traditional investors.
Why do you recognize Bitcoin Classic instead of continue of mine Bitcoin?
I have some preliminary plans for enhancing brand building. I will integrate my own media resources and contact more medias including Reuters and Yahoo Finance. This will make special reports for Bitcoin Classic and therefore increase its popularity. At the same time, I will also invite some friends in the financial field to participate in the offline summit of Bitcoin Classic to realize the purpose of value transmission. These strategies are feasible and effective. I think the development speed of Bitcoin Classic must be ahead of the speed of brand building. When all the friends who participate in brand building reap the profits brought by the development of Bitcoin Classic, they will participate in the development of Bitcoin Classic more actively.
Technology is core of blockchain development. How does technology provide the development of Bitcoin Classic?
So first of all, the reason why I switched from Bitcoin Commuting Power to Bitcoin Classic is that Bitcoin Classic is closer to the peer-to-peer electronic cash system described by Satoshi Nakamoto. Other reasons why I switched are because the current price of Bitcoin is far too high. The total amount is limited and it is difficult to realize that everyone can have it. Bitcoin Classic is more convenient and more liquid. It is more suitable for becoming a peer-to-peer electronic cash system also. Secondly, the profit brought to me by participating in Bitcoin Classic mining is indeed relatively high, so I chose to participate in the high-yield Bitcoin Classic mining. I personally think that Bitcoin's development space will not be endless. While Bitcoin Classic is still in the very, very early stages, the future potential is immeasurable. Since Bitcoin can allow some participants to achieve wealth and freedom, I believe that Bitcoin Classic would enable early participants to obtain much success and delight from switching over to Bitcoin Classic.
How to promote the ecological construction of Bitcoin Classic?
Bitcoin Classic is an optimized version of Bitcoin, born out of the original Bitcoin chain. Therefore, the underlying architecture of the two is very similar. Now, Bitcoin pays more attention to value storage, while Bitcoin Classic pays more attention to electronic payment. I think the technological development can create value barriers for Bitcoin Classic. It needs to overcome the following directions in the future. One is to have faster transaction speed. Another is to have lower transaction fees and also to cover more fields. In response to the problems that need to be overcome, the Bitcoin Classic development community will focus on the Lightning Network and sidechain development in the future to increase transaction speed and reduce transaction fees. In the face of assets that need to be transferred on different blockchains, the Bitcoin Classic development community will take on an in-depth study of cross-chain technology to achieve barrier-free transfer of assets on different chains.
Where is value of Bitcoin Classic reflected?
The value of Bitcoin Classic is mainly reflected in the fact that it can make the circulation cost of assets much cheaper. I believe that everyone should have heard the emergence of the internet has made the cost of information transmission lower. Then the emergence of Bitcoin Classic makes the cost of value transmission even lower. People can use Bitcoin Classic to circulate assets so easily and quickly, and there is no regional restriction or country distinction. It is foreseeable that this will become one of the ways of human asset circulation in the future, which is also the value of Bitcoin Classic. Secondly, the network maintenance of Bitcoin Classic relies on computing power, and computing power is a key factor in current social development. As the value of Bitcoin Classic continues to increase, people's demand for chips will continue to grow. This will greatly promote the development of a chip industry in the entire society.
What is the future value of Bitcoin Classic?
In fact, it is difficult to judge just how much the value of a startup project will rise in the future. When I participated in Bitcoin mining in the early days, I really liked to set a goal. For example, after the price of Bitcoin rose to $100 a year, I would sell all the Bitcoin in my hand to subsidize electricity bills. Later, I discovered that no matter what price I sold, it was wrong, because now the price of Bitcoin has risen to $60,000, a massive increase. Having learned this hard lesson, I won't easily limit the value of Bitcoin Classic. Whether it is $100, $1,000, or $10,000, they are the prices that may await us in the future. Since we expect Bitcoin Classic to become the mainstream currency in the future, why don't we just abandon the idea of legal tender pricing altogether? When Bitcoin Classic truly becomes a universal peer-to-peer electronic cash system, we only need to directly use it to pay, and there is no need for complex legal currency conversion after that.
Has any capital been involved in Bitcoin Classic?
This is just inevitable, but the institutional positions will not be revealed too much in the early stages. From the browser data of Bitcoin Classic, it can be seen that the circulating market value of Bitcoin Classic on November 2nd, 2021 is about $112 million. Judging from the currently available information, Singapore's well-known fund, Oakley, and venture capital firm, Radford, are conducting in-depth exploration of Bitcoin Classic application scenarios and development. Shiwa Capital and Denisi have also participated in the development of Bitcoin Classic 2, and Coinbase Capital of the United States has already thrown an olive branch on Bitcoin Classic. Furthermore, Bitcoin Classic has formed an ecological cooperation with Nomics, an encrypted data aggregator, under Coinbase Capital. I believe that more capital will choose to participate in Bitcoin Classic in the near future, maybe even starting in the next few years. Bitcoin Classic will come into the sight of Wall Street before too long.
What is next development plan for Bitcoin Classic?
Regarding the next development plan of Bitcoin Classic, I will focus on the cooperative exchanges, cooperative institutions, and offline summits. I will negotiate and cooperate with familiar exchanges, for example, Bitfinex, Upbit, and Bitfum. I plan to cooperate with at least 2 well-known cryptocurrency trading platforms within 1 year. In addition, I will invite some institutional friends to conduct research on Bitcoin Classic. I think all institutions participating in the research will be interested in this endeavour. Regarding the offline summits, I have a lot of ideas. I think all fans in the community can spontaneously host the Bitcoin Classic Summit, which is a manifestation of the spirit of decentralization. Secondly, I can attend all the offline summits held in North America, and I will invite my media friends and investment bank friends to participate. I believe that through a combination of these 3 aspects, the next stage of Bitcoin Classic's development will be very smooth.
What will be the relationship between Bitcoin Classic and Bitcoin in the future?
So Bitcoin Classic was born in the original Bitcoin chain, so the two are practically inseparable. I think they should complement each other in the future because Bitcoin's slow transfer speed and high transfer fees are destined to be only a means of storing value rather than a cryptocurrency that can be used for daily payments. Bitcoin Classic can help Bitcoin users solve their daily payment problems. Bitcoin Classic has faster transaction speed and nearly 0 transaction fees, so Bitcoin Classic will become an indispensable supplementary currency for Bitcoin in the future. I think the market value of Bitcoin Classic will reach at least 10% of Bitcoin's market value in the future.
Okay, thank you. Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you very much, and I hope everyone can support Bitcoin Classic more. Thanks again to the guests and community friends for coming, and we look forward to our next meeting.